I've talked many times about 0 point or free energy, the inertia of this planet, and other ways to be able to get your energy besides having to depend on the oil using the fiat currency in this whole system that they have set up here around the globe right now. Now, we all know that there are ways to utilize solar, wind, hydro, geothermal, things of that nature. But we now have a group of scientists, and this is being pushed throughout the mainstream outlets. Well, I've seen it on one, and it's on the international site of the Clinton News Network. And they're pushing the story here of the potential energy source of the future. It's yet to be seen how they're going to flip this and twist this from here. But what I do know is many people have come along before this and have been thrown in jail, have had their projects taken from them, never to be heard of again, swept under the rug because of the control factor here on this planet, and how they're using the oil, and like I said, your fiat currency from these central banks that just keep printing this stuff that's worthless, completely worthless, not even backed by gold anymore. Well, they're saying that this new potential energy source works by taking parts of a hydrogen atom and converting it into another form. And they say that they believe that this is showing that it's transferring to the characteristics of dark matter and dark energy. Now, the problem with this is they're saying mainstream science is rejecting his theory because right now they're not saying much about dark matter. If you guys recall here recently, the past 6 months or so, CERN had this big announcement. They said, we found this bump of data and it could change everything. Then all of a sudden they come out and they say, it was nothing. It was nothing. And they complete silence about it after hinting all this time that this was what they were after, this dark matter throughout the universe. Now, they were also talking the months ahead of this about some crazy things. They were coming out stating that they could be potentially poking a hole into the fabric of space-time or collapsing in another dimension into ours. Put out full articles on this stuff, talking about the possibilities. So that shows you right there exactly what CERN can do when they make those statements. It's not just about atom smashing. It's a whole lot more than that. But what's interesting about this new little project, they're calling it SunCell. And they're saying that it's basically like a little mini sun in a device about the size of a coffee can that can just put out just massive amounts of power. It's very lightweight. They say it can replace all power sources globally. And, my first thought is, if this is true, then this guy's going to get sniped. But he's got a whole team with him. And he's got like 50 renowned scientists backing him. Some that are paid and a part of it, some that are not. Some that were skeptical out the gate, that looked into it and kept digging and digging and digging. And lo and behold, they were like, I think he has something. And the only reason mainstream science is not saying that it's legitimate at this point is because they're covering up information. And if they admit this, then they're admitting to something much bigger, something that they just basically tried to sweep under the rug here recently. We know they keep us in the dark. We know they lied to us. We know there's a lot of crazy things going on with CERN and in all these other places we've seen, even here in the United States, these underground laboratories. We've talked about Montauk. We've talked about up there off of Long Island. We've talked about in Illinois. Underground, the facilities, the other rings that they have doing the same thing. And that's atom smashing. What they're doing here is they're basically separating off this electron from the hydrogen atom, and he keeps referencing dark matter. What I find interesting is that this outlet was pushing it as if there's really something there. And it seems like they got a lot of substance behind it too, because nowhere in here do you see anyone saying, all right, it's just a light show. Although CNN tries to say that right out the gate. Is it just a flash with no substance, basically, is what they state? But every single person that's been reviewing the data is like, well, dude, this thing's putting out massive amounts of energy. Regardless, it's putting out massive amounts of energy. And everything that they're looking into on how it's happening is checking out. So I thought it was pretty interesting here. Wanted to share it with you guys, get your take on it. If it checks out to be legitimate, this really could change things. But once again, with everything that I've seen thus far and what they do to people, and I'm not going to rule it out. We know that it exists out there. It's just being able to punch through the veil and be able to get out there. And anything anyone does, the bigger corporations want to come along and try to capitalize on it, on everything, no matter what it is, and take over the game and try to tax it or whatever. But the deregulation of the power grid here within the past few years, past 5 years or so, that was a sign that things were changing, because it was bottled up by only a couple big corporations. And when they deregulated the energy power, I'm telling you what, a lot of people behind the scenes have gotten rich off this across the country, and righteously, because what they've done is they've been able to go out working for some of these subgroups, and what they do is they buy a chunk of power, a block of power now. They're allowed to, at a decent price. They can get that chunk of power, and they have it now. They own that chunk. They can go to other businesses and they can be like, look, you're paying this much through, say, Duke Energy or whoever else. I can lock you in at a way cheaper rate for the next few years. Even if prices rise, you will be locked in at a lower rate, and you are going to save all this money for not only your house here, but also your business if you got a business. And why not? It's saving people massive amounts of money because it was deregulated, and it's opening up the doors. They're just not talking about it out there or teaching you about it. You see? Now, another thing that's probably going to have a boom, and I think it's already in motion, is the marijuana thing. A boom with it. But you see these faces that come through, and it doesn't always have to do with that exact product, but sometimes, like in the physical form. But the stock market related to certain things, whether it's hemp products, medicine, agriculture, no matter what it is, there's going to be pluses and benefits, and it's going to boom, especially with the legality of it. There's going to be more coming through. You have to think about it like that. And the same thing with the energy. When they deregulated the energy grid here in this country, most people don't even know what that means or what happened. But what they did is they said, look, the big dogs can no longer sit here and make up numbers and milk all of you. We're going to break it down to where competitors can come in, make this fair, and offer competitive prices. And that's what they're doing. And it's something I actually looked into a long time ago, but didn't have the time to actually dig deep into it. I know someone that did, and they've been successful at it. And really, what they do, just getting up and walking the streets every day, going into a business, having a meeting with the guy in there, like, look, you want to save some money for years to come? First thing everyone thinks is it's got to be a scam. What's the catch? This and that. It's not. It's the deregulation of electricity across the country. And if you know what you're doing, and you can go in and buy those allotments and get the right price, you can save these people a ton of money. And it's not a get rich overnight type of thing, but this is residual income, you see, to where those people have to have power. So when you sign them up for 2-3 years down the road, for the next few years, you get a small piece, a percentage of that payment. And it all adds up once you get hundreds and thousands of people, you see. So that's how the people that were working in the deregulation of electric are doing it and feeling good about it, because they're not going out there trying to sell a pitch where there's anything scandalous there. And I'm sure there are some people that will find a way to do it. There's greed all over the place. Don't get it twisted. But it actually opened the door for a righteous opportunity for good, righteous people to present a good opportunity to people to save them money. And can't beat that. So It was a win-win. Like I said, some of you may have never heard about that, but I wanted to talk about it a little bit here. It's important because I think that this planet itself was on a natural energy structure. From all the research that I've done personally throughout all the years, day in and day out, from what I've seen, these pyramids were power hubs. And not every one of them, but some of them, in the way they were designed, it's basically been proven that they function once plated with the right stuff and put together the right way. They could harness energy, the inertia of the earth. And you could tap into that, especially when you're building these things on energy lines, the natural energy lines and ley lines that run across the planet. And basically, the Emerald Tablets, Thoth stated that. He stated how everything, speaking about Atlantis and the time of Atlantis, everything was set up on a natural power grid. The earth was on a beautiful utopia type of structure until there was war in heaven, which is similar to the Michael casting down the fallen angel story. But Thoth writes in the Emerald Tablets that these entities came here, these male dominant type of entities from Mars after Mars collapsed. So the war in heaven tied directly into the collapse of Mars and some entities arriving here. And it wasn't long after that there was the downfall of Atlantis and everything else that had happened. But it's interesting to note that Thoth had wrote about the free energy and how many other societies throughout time it spoke about this. It talked about the harmonics of frequency, anti-gravitics, propulsion, the whole nine, and being able to move blocks and all kinds of amazing things. But that's one of the things that ticks me off the most these days, being lied to by man. Because when I look back in history, I highly doubt the Mayans and the Egyptians and everyone else had it in mind to lie to us when they were etching into their stone, when they were inscribing all that stuff in the stone and burying it in the sand behind the sands of time. It's the wisest thing to do. If you want someone to know the secrets or anything about you and your life, etch it in stone and bury it and try to somehow get the coordinates out there to where the right people will know down the road. If that hasn't already been done. If that is not what they're out there looking for. And I believe it is. I believe it's all these wars are for, traveling the globe into these countries, digging for ancient technology. But this is pretty cool. If it checks out to be what it is, I'm not sure of a price tag they're going to put on it. And I will continue to update as I get more info on it. But there's more than just this device out there. Just remember it. The schematics on how to build some of these things have been out there before, and I know they've been scrubbed from YouTube. It just goes to show. Well, why would they be? Well, because they don't want you to know the knowledge. Is the thing. And there's guys that have built some of these devices out there. Gyros that just give them a little push. They'll constantly keep on going back and forth, gyroing, making small amounts of energy. But if you get a big enough one or enough of them and tie that into wind, solar, and rain all together, you'll have enough to sustain yourself. I'm telling you. And Google did it. And this was another big thing before I end this here. You remember me saying this. Here recently, Google made an announcement that they now have reached 100% capacity on their intake of energy, being green energy. Meaning that they have bought up enough windmills, enough fields of them, enough fields of solar panels. You ever gone driving on the highway across the country in certain areas, you'll see massive windmills. Or you'll see massive fields of solar panels. That's what it is. You see, they're buying up all that. What they're stating now is they now have enough to where they're producing enough energy from everything they've bought to sustain them 100%. Meaning, if they buy any more from here on out, they will be gaining. So that was my prediction. Watch out, because Google is going to jump into the energy sector, and when they do, boy, oh boy. And learn from what I just said in this video. You can too. Look into the deregulation of electricity. A few years ago, it was going state to state to state, and it came right down on my doorstep, Ohio and Indiana, and hadn't quite made it into Kentucky. And that's when I had a buddy in Ohio pick up and take off with it. And he's been successful, and still is. So, and he's helping people at the same time. But something like this, would be amazing to see in everyone's home or business if it could actually do what it does. Now, I don't know the dangers of this, if it could malfunction, if it's going to explode, anything like that. They didn't mention anything of that nature. So there's other little details we're going to have to update on, but an interesting read and talk nonetheless. If you guys got any info you want me to get out there, let me know, dabu7yahoo.com. Make sure you're subscribed to Enter the Stars channel. We're going to be hosting, actually, make sure you're following me on Twitter because something new is about to happen here. Because of all the individuals out there that wanted to come through and try to jack our stuff and not give us credit and all these other things, Casey's going to do something unique. He's going to have basically a private little hangout ran for Underground World News Live this Friday, but he's going to run it and air it on his website that has a chat where people can talk, and that's a move that I'm going to be making too. I'm going to be trying to get a chat into the Underground World News where all the live streams are going to be launched over there. And the chat can be held right there. The whole nine can be held right there at the website. And if we can get that trend going, then eventually people can know just to tune in to the website to catch the live streams and the archive of the live streams. Okay? Then, once we can capitalize on that, it doesn't have to be just off of one platform. You see, like YouTube, they don't have to have the control and censorship on us. We can use Vimeo or any other means we need to plug or embed the video to get it in over there, and everyone can still listen in live. You see? So, it's about the reach, about breaking the censorship, and all that good stuff. So, make sure you're following me on Twitter. I'll be tweeting out the links to all that. And for any of you out there in prepping mode looking to stock up on any kind of supplies and medicine before a crisis situation, check out Essential Drugstore. I'll leave links for all the stuff below. Stay tuned for more. It's been Dabu7. Peace.